Zeina, welcome to the Star Coach Show.
Thank you for having me, Meg. It's a pleasure being
Absolutely.
here.
You know, we have worked really hard on getting together. We've been working on this for over a year. It just life circumstances happen, but it was so important to me to have you on the show. And I want to share a little bit about you with everyone so that everyone understands how important it is that we have you with us. So, Dr. Zeina Ghossoub Al-Aswad is a PhD in human behavior and counseling. We have sort of that in our history that we both have that mental health background. You're also a master certified coach and co-founder and chief wellness officer of Vital Skills company based in Houston. But you spend, and we were just talking about this before we started
Yeah.
recording, you spend some time in Houston and sometimes in Beirut. And
Yeah.
it's about 50-50 or sometimes 68 or whatever, 60-40, but whatever it is, you're really a global provider of your services. And you are also the president or have been. Are you currently the president of the Lebanon chapter or past president?
No, I founded a chapter in Beirut in 2017 and presided on it for 4 years. And
That's so
stayed
exciting.
as a board member for 2 years. I'm actually part of the board in Houston now.
That is wonderful. And what I love about that, and another reason why I wanted to have you on the show, is that you believe in the profession of coaching, and that part of being a coach is that we reach out, we offer our services, yes, through what we do, but also how do we give to the community? How do we build and do the heavy lifting together as coaches? And so you founded this chapter in Lebanon, you're part of the Houston chapter. You just do so much and today we're really looking through that lens of health and wellness. We're going to
Yeah.
look through because when we did our exploratory call together, we knew that there was 100 things you could talk about on this interview with
Yeah.
me. And what I ask every guest is, but what really lights you up? What's important to you? And you said, I want to help coaches get past burnout. Burnout is a very real thing. And as service providers, and that's what we are as coaches, we're engaging with people who have many different issues. We have our own things going on, and we need to be aware of the fact that burnout is real and that there are things that we can do to counter that. And that's what you and I are going to talk about today.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I am so passionate about this subject of burnout specifically, not only in coaches, but I do a lot of work in the healthcare industry
Mhm.
uh, since 2013.
What makes you so passionate about this concept of burnout?
So this makes what really makes me passionate about it was actually started in the healthcare industry with my husband. My husband is an ER physician and an internal
Oh,
medicine doctor. And in around 2008, he went through a burnout, and then he refused coaching completely. And so I introduced him to a whole lot of emotional intelligence and wellness and all of that. So by the time I convinced him in 2013, we initiated Vital Science, Vital Skills as a health care provider, coaching and consulting firm for specifically the healthcare industry. And we started actually doing a whole lot of research on physicians, nurses, all healthcare providers, and we published a whole lot of work. And we published a book also on burnout specifically.
that's awesome.
And yes, of course, that we did with also Dr. Riley Nadler. That's an entity in emotional intelligence and an MCC coach also. And this, from there, my passion for burnout started because it's all about taking care of the service provider. And then I started looking at coaches, and then I started looking at entrepreneurs. I'm currently working on a study for entrepreneurs and burnout. Um, and they are all service care providers. I think they are not taken care of. And this is why this is very important and close to my heart.
So good. So what is it? Let's set the stage for what we need to understand about maybe, what is it? What are the foundational pieces of burnout that, because we hear that like burnout, but let's better understand that. What exactly happens to us as beings when we go through this process of just burning out?
So burnout is a disease, as opposed to what many people think. It is actually a disease, and it is a syndrome that is conceptualized as a resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed, and it has several dimensions. Now, I will give you afterwards the symptoms, but what we look a lot for in burnout is it simulates a lot post-traumatic stress disorder,
Mhm,
PTSD, in the anxieties and the feelings and the emotions and all of that. And
mhm,
actually, you get desensitized a lot, and you become cynical.
mhm.
Um, so it is a disease of the emotions,
Oh.
which is very scary because you cannot diagnose it. And in our book, we model it as a cancer model because it creeps on you without you knowing.
And then
And
suddenly you boom, you're impacted by it.
yes, and suddenly it becomes catastrophic because physiologically you're not capable of getting out of bed, and if you're going to work specifically, it has the same symptoms as PTSD. You have the panic attacks, the anxiety attacks, the shivering, the not the arrhythmias, but the tachycardia. All of these symptoms, they actually, but this is severe, like
Hmm.
severe burnout. And we have to remember that burnout is on a spectrum. It
Right.
is, you might have mild and you might have severe. But basically, it affects your professional efficacy, it increases absenteeism a lot,
Hmm.
and it increases presenteeism at the same time. You are at work, but you're not at work.
Right.
You're 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 not focused at
And
work.
that's one thing when you're like working for somebody else, and that's a that's intense. But also for everybody who's an entrepreneur, or you're like what you do is bringing in there's a lot of heavy lifting as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of heavy lifting when you're in an emergency room doctor and those kinds of things too. But what I mean by that is, when if you shut down, when you are your own, you basically eat what you kill as an entrepreneur in a that and you're falling in that overwhelm and that burnout. So that's what's so important for us to talk about today. In what does it look like through the work that you've done, Zeina? What are you finding is leading to burnout in coaches?
I would say, um, I wouldn't say lack of awareness as in physicians or in the
Mm-hmm.
healthcare industry, because as coaches, most coaches actually do the work on themselves and they do create the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've seen a lot with coaches is the wellness, lack of taking care of themselves, like from a physiological and a psychological aspect. So, because we are service providers, we have the tendency not to really take care of ourselves, and so in service of others. And if we're entrepreneurs and coaches, when they start getting into the industry, Meg, what happens is they want to prove themselves also and how good they are. So they overwork. So I got a burnt out coach the other day that's doing 12 hours a day of one-to-ones.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's crazy. From one platform to another platform. And because I'm a dietitian also, so I do a lot of wellness work. So when I saw the blood test, it's like his liver enzymes are not doing well, his triglycerides is not doing well, and all of this. Of course, he's not going to be doing well because he is exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
He's he is totally burned out emotionally also, because there's, as you know, as coaches, we need to take care of ourselves, especially with all the emotions that we have to deal with. So I would say it is really the wellness aspect. When I say wellness, we're talking about the wellness wheel, the
Mm-hmm.
8 dimensions of wellness. In terms of, we're talking about health,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about self-development, we're talking about social connections, we're talking about finances, we're talking about your spirituality, and we're talking about your relationships in terms of intimate relationships, or relationships with your family and friends, and your environment. So all
Mm-hmm.
of these factors together, if you're doing Zoom calls for 12 hours a day, or let's say 6 hours a day, back to backs, and you're not breathing, you're gonna get burnt out.
Right.
So
Well, and then
yeah.
it becomes, are you really being the kind of coach you want to be? Because how can we possibly be giving and fully present and creating the kind of awareness that we want with some other people if we're absolutely operating from laying on the floor? I mean, that is just that that's sort of counterintuitive even in and of itself. If you want to be the best coach you can be, you got to take care of yourself first.
Yes, and the industry is overwhelming by itself. So
Right.
especially when we see young coaches. Remember when we kicked off, we wanted to do this conversation, you and I, and we talked about young coaches, not young coaches as in age, but young coaches when they get into the coaching business and they want to open their
Right.
in their business. They really get so overwhelmed because they want to learn and they want to prove themselves. And you
Right.
see a lot of that in these young coaches, like in between 1 year into 7 or 8 years into their coach.
Right.
So you see a lot of burnout in these because they're trying so hard. It doesn't matter the age group,
Right.
that prove themselves. Yeah.
So
So
go ahead.
I was gonna say, so it's really important to start with the wellness and really understand what your body and mind needs, and socially what you need. Uh, if you don't do that, you are definitely going to be compromised. And then in our model, in the model that I work with coaches, the second factor is emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Actually really understanding how you are dealing with your emotions. Because even as coaches, if we are not coached ourselves, or we are in group supervisions where some of our sessions are very heavy on us, or they keep us, we're not able to deal with, there's going to be transference and countertransference in those emotions that we are taking if we're not able to deal with those emotions. So
Mm-hmm.
this is very important. So when I say emotional intelligence, so how aware are you of dealing with your emotions? And translating those emotions to the people you are living with and to the people you are working with, not
Hmm.
your clients, but colleagues. And do
Hmm.
you have someone that supports you? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a
Hmm.
coach where you can get on the phone and just talk? Or this is very important in our industry.
Hmm.
So having that, doing that emotional intelligence test and understanding really where you are on the whole test is very important. And understanding where are the things that you need balance in is also of prime importance.
Okay, so we want to kind of start with wellness and the wheel and all eight pieces of the pie. We want to pay attention to our emotional intelligence, and how we're showing up in life, and how we're even connecting with what's happening emotionally within us. What else do we want to be aware of when we are, and I'm sort of doing this backwards because in a way I want to know what we want to be aware of, but I also want to pay attention to what stages or what might happen to make us realize, oh, wait, danger, danger, there's things happening. But anything in addition to the wellness and the EQ that you work with clients around, these coaches who are experiencing burnout?
So yes, there's the wellness. When I say wellness, there's the physiological aspect it's very crucial that we understand if there is anything medical that's going on with them.
Right.
And then we experience the whole wheel, wellness wheel, and then the emotions. But uh, and then what we actually do is coach. So when all is said and done, we coach. We just coach. And there's another thing here that's of prime importance, and then I'll go back to the signs and symptoms exactly. Sometimes, even as coaches, uh, there are certain things, as you know, Meg, that come up with us in our sessions with clients. So, like an emotion gets triggered, or in us, when a client will be talking about their issue, this needs to be addressed with another coach or a mentor. And if these things are not addressed with another coach or a mentor, then we really need to go through therapy. It's important.
Hmm.
These things will show up with us. And we all know that all of us have been through traumas, and all of us need to address all of our issues. But we are cannot going to resolve all our issues to be dealing with clients. But if we see a pattern of one of the things that's happening every time, then we need to deal with it.
Right.
And many of the coaches don't. And this will lead to the signs and symptoms also of serious burnout, because trauma is there and it will start eating at you. And then it's going to affect you in a very negative way in your daily life and even with your clients, because you're not going to be able to cope.
I love that. So I want to reiterate something that you said that is stressed a lot in training for counselors and therapists, and I don't think it's stressed as much in training for coaches. And you said it, and I thought, yeah, we really need to reinforce that. You said, we need to start with the physical. We need to rule out. I remember as a therapist, the first rule was rule out that there isn't anything physical that's causing these symptoms that are coming up in the therapy office. And I think that that's something that coaches don't necessarily hear. Are you encouraging your clients or yourself to see your primary care physician, or to, when was the last time they had a physical? What are they doing to, you mentioned blood work earlier. Like, what is happening to pay attention to our physical being as well, because I think that we sort of meet people down, like not down, like at a different, like less important, but like we're going to meet them in their emotions and their behaviors because that's what they bring to coaching. But that doesn't, we need to rule out that anything physical might be happening with our clients. And so I appreciate you bringing that up.
And
Rule, go ahead.
and that is mandatory. You see, I come from a background of healthcare and dietetics, and you know, if you have anemia, just iron deficiency anemia, you are prone to depression. You are prone to emotional eating. This is one of the reasons why I went into coaching in the first place. And when I went into coaching, it's because of I wanted to support my dietetic clients in getting healthier. And there was no way when I saw that as a dietitian, I was failing because they are reverting back to their old habits.
Ah,
So this is what prompted me into going into coaching, and then and there was no many programs in wellness. So I graduated my coaching in 2005 as an executive coach, and and then I figured that, oh, okay, so I need to learn more about the brain, and I went into my other PhD. But the thing is, health is very important. If we cannot neglect that, and it's very important that they at least ask their clients if they are doing this physical every year, if they are seeing their primary. We have to.
right.
It's something that is very important to do.
Okay, excellent. So we want to start with the physical, then you do the wellness wheel and look at all of that. We're looking at body and mind together, the emotional intelligence, and then we coach because that's what we do and that's the process that we believe in. And as coaches, if that's something that I believe we should all be engaging in anyway. Like if I believe in the process of coaching, then I need to have a coach as well. So, so that's sort of the path to wellness. Let's talk about what are the red flags that we should be paying attention to if they're coming up, um, to indicate that we might be headed down a dangerous path.
Yes. So one of the big red flags is I don't want to wake up in the morning and go to work. I just don't want to do it. I'm too exhausted. I am, even as much as you love your work, you would not want to be doing it. And it creeps on you like slowly.
Mhm.
Uh, one of this is one. Second could be I don't want to deal with conflicts. I conflicts become something that's very heavy for me. Third, I am becoming a very sarcastic, very, very like, I'll be talking to a friend, I'll be very sarcastic. Uh, Fourth, you have a lot of emotional triggers in the day, like many triggers, many triggers up and down, several times a day. You're not in a state of peace most of the day. And you have the definitely the physiological factors where there might be hair loss, there might be tachycardia, there might be lack of sleep or sleeping a lot, substance abuse, like it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be cigarette smoking, it could be food. So you would be eating or drinking in a way you were not doing it before. Negative thinking, serious negative thinking most of the time, even as a coach, and
Mhm.
even with all of what you are doing, this happens. Depersonalization, so you become less empathetic with people also.
Which is kind of counterintuitive to what we want to do, right? A lot of these symptoms are very similar to acute depression.
Yes. They become more intense when you are actually working. They become less
Oh,
intense if you are resting.
interesting.
Yes. So this is the definition of burnout. And the DSM-5 actually it now puts it as a disease in this category, that it is workplace based. However, recent studies, if you look at it, it shows that it doesn't go away when you go back at home or when you're out of your work environment. It keeps brewing. So this is why it needs addressing. And
Hmm.
you feel the some of the other symptoms are inner emptiness. You feel like um, whatever you're doing is not fulfilling you. And now the very severe
Hmm.
would be really suicidal ideations. And
Oh my.
yeah, I haven't seen that in coaches. I've
Hmm.
seen mild, like mild and very, very mild to moderate.
Mild to
Uh,
moderate. Okay, but I'm sure with the healthcare
oh,
profession that you've been working with, you've seen
severe,
every
severe.
degree. Yeah.
Yes. In a lot of moderate to severe,
Hmm.
especially post-COVID.
Right.
COVID, it
Right.
has magnified. Like I cannot tell you what happened. It became crazy. Another thing that you see is denial of emotions.
Okay.
Like you just don't want to deal with what's going on.
Okay. So wherever you are in that, if in fact any of the things that we're talking about, you start to think, oh gosh, I feel like I'm being described there. Um, First of all, you're going to want to go to your physician and make sure
Yes,
that
of
that
course.
yeah, because that's where we want to start. And yet, what are you doing to either have a coach, a mentor, a dietitian, somebody who specializes like Zeina does in this very field. So let's say we've got people saying, "Oh my gosh, they're talking about me." What would you recommend?
As you said, I will give a bit of more things specific for coaches, specifically in their
Yes,
session. They become less present, if they are less curious, if they are finding real difficulty in connecting, if they are less focused, if they are less accepting, more judgmental, if they are less curious, and I said more depersonalized, less empathetic, definitely they are in that state. The first thing I recommend is really seeing a primary care physician, like just to check out what's going on. Second is talking to a seasoned coach or a mentor that they are close to, or a seasoned mentor that has been through coaching for a very long time, and they know the industry very well, and they know what they have been through. Also, because this will help a lot. So seek help in one and more ways than that's possible, because um, sometimes there are a couple of coaches I worked with. We found out that they had an autoimmune disease that they were not diagnosed with properly.
and
From
therefore they're kind of struggling uphill without knowing what it is that they're struggling against.
just by having a conversation, like
Hmm.
and just doing the proper tests.
Hmm.
And so they were able to be diagnosed, put on medications, on plans, and then continue. So, because you're doing something 3 or 4 times harder than everyone else and you're not coping. Some people were diagnosed with ADHD as
Hmm.
coaches. Also, they were also struggling a lot. And there are people that are specialized for that. So you really need to create that awareness of what's going on with me, as we do as coaches,
Hmm.
uh, everyone. But it's more on a global level, on the whole, physical and everything else that's going on with you.
Okay. So, as we are unfortunately already having to kind of begin to wrap up our time today, if there's just a couple things that you want people to keep top of mind as we are, because I think it's, I think being in a helping profession and being a service provider is a key thing. I mean, it's a noble thing to be a part of. We want to um, be we we want to be our best, but in order to meet people's needs and be able to be the kind of service provider we want, we've got to start here. That whole concept of, put your oxygen mask on first. So as we are kind of wrapping up our talk about burnout in coaches, what are just a few key highlights you want to be sure people remember?
I'm gonna highlight um, three things that are very important. One is if you feel there are unmet expectations, if you feel that you have lack of control on what you are doing, and if you feel you have insufficient rewards in what you are doing, you are going heading towards burnout. So these are the three things. Let everyone look at the emotions that we discussed, the emotional, let everyone get an emotional intelligence test. Let's do an assessment. That's very important. And if we feel that we are not having the ability to express our emotions in the place that we are in, specifically with people that we are close to, then that's another place to look at. And the third and the most important is your physical wellness and the ability to understand how good am I sleeping? How good am I eating? How good am I exercising? How am I in the right fit for me? Or am I not? Am I getting really a lot of sicknesses all throughout the year? Am I getting, is my immune system low? Am I getting a lot of viruses or not? So what is happening? All of this really counts a lot on our psychological uh, well-being and our mental well-being. And then take it from there. And there is a test that we can do. It's the Maslow burnout inventory uh, that we do to check if we are burnt out or not.
Excellent. So many good resources. I, love the fact that you sort of walked through what it is, what we need to be paying attention to. You gave us some red flags to pay attention to, but also a path to walk down that is from, well-being physically, emotionally, spiritually, really our body, mind, and soul, and all of that comes together. If in my experience, coaches are heart-centered people. They want to be there for other people. They are drawn to this profession through a passion to help others. However, that very passion can be the thing that gets in the way of us being the best we can be because we're so focused on other people, we forget to focus on ourselves. So I love the fact that you brought this forward. We're going to have links to connect with you and the work that you do in the show notes for this episode. I am so grateful that you came to share this with us. And you and I are going to continue our conversation with your pearl of wisdom in the with our bonus. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check out our community. Come back next week to the Star Coach Show as we continue each and every week to explore strategies, tools, and resources for coaches and leaders. And we get to visit with incredible people like Dr. Zeina. Say your last name for me one more time.
Ghossoub Swat.
I love you. It's so beautiful, but it's like I'm going to massacre it. So let's have you say it so that everybody hears how beautiful you say it. Zeina, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for having me.